Boom! What's happening? Everybody, and this means you. What is going on? Shout Out Sunday. Welcome. Welcome, one and all. No matter where you are, you're welcome here. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. And you know what we do here? We talk about music. We don't really get into politics. I saw a little chatter in the box coming in here about Palestine and Israel and stuff like that. I got to tell you, man, we do music here. It's kind of what we do. Kind of keep the politics out of it. So just a little heads up on that. You know what? Welcome. This is show number 126. 126 shows. Is anyone sick of this shit yet? Anyone getting tired of this yet? 126 shows? I mean, I kind of am. I'm actually not even Drew Stone. I've cloned. I'm like a Drew. I'm a Drew Stone clone. There's like a lot of Drew Stones out there now. I'm not the original Drew Stone. I'm the Drew Stone that does this show. There's like a Drew Stone that sings an Antidote, NYHC now. There's a Drew Stone that roams the planet having sex with as many people as possible. There's a Drew Stone that... There's a lot of us now. But hey, I'm a bot. Yeah, I'm a bot. Anyway, I'm being... Yeah, multiplicity. Yep. Are you Andrew Stone? No, I'm not Andrew Stone. That's another... Nope. Yeah, you know what? 126 shows, and sometimes I'll hear from someone go, "I haven't missed a show." How could... Really? People out there have watched every single show we've done, 126 shows? That's incredible. And if that's the case, I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You know, I'm really, really grateful and humbled that the show has found such an audience. So stoked for this episode. Good. That's what we like to hear. Yep. Is my connection or is it having issues? I don't know. Speak English. Maybe I will understand what you're saying. Yeah, 126, bro. Crazy. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. It's your 45th birthday today. Boyle goes to. Well, happy birthday, man. Happy 45th birthday. It's my 45th birthday today. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Wow. Well, thanks, man. That's, you know what? I'll tell you what. We're not going to let you down today on your 45th birthday. We're going to have a great show. We're going to make you feel good. What's up, Ray Hogan? There you go. Yep. You missed one show, Chris Hoffman. If I may ask, what is the one show that you missed? Oh, man. There you go. All right. I've seen every episode. That's incredible. I don't even think I've seen every episode. You know? Hold on a second. What's going on, bro?
How do I know you really Drew Stone?
I'm not. I'm telling you I'm not.
Drew Clone.
Yeah. I'm the Drew Stone that does the show. Do you want me to send the Drew Stone that has sex with everyone on the planet over to your place?
No. I got 3 locks on that. I got 3 locks on that door.
Steven, someone's at the door.
It's not the right one.
Don't let him in, Mom. He's a sex cyborg. He's a sex clone.
Drew Stone, sex bot.
What about the Drew Stone in the Deadly Rain video? Yeah, that was the real Drew Stone.
Oh, you know what? I just watched that video. We were talking about that the other day.
Right.
That was what was that? 84.
84. When I first joined Antidote, me and Arthur Googie. You know. Yep. Don't let him sit on the furniture. Good one, Denise. Drew Clone. Hi, I'm Drew Clone. Anyway, enough of you talking about me. Let's hear you talk about me.
Well, we got a beautiful 90-degree day here. So
I wouldn't know. I'm the Drew Stone that never leaves the house.
Oh, you're the agoraphobic Drew Stone.
Yeah, I don't. I hear there's a whole nother world out there, but I could care less.
You're probably safer inside, away from the man, you know?
Listen, I love my world in here.
Nah, it's nice out.
I don't need anyone. I don't care.
All I need. What was that? All I need is this ping pong paddle and this
all
chair.
All I need is the air that I'm breathing. All right.
All right.
How about photo of the day? We can't avoid this any longer. Which one? God, you sent me a couple of them.
I did.
Oh, let's try this one. Did I mess it up already? Hold on. No. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, it is Sunday shout out day, but first we are doing photo of the day. Wrong answers only, please. Photo of the day. What do we got here? Dude, this could be 300 different bands.
It could be clones.
Dude, this could be like 800 different bands.
Well, that's why I sent you a few different shots of them as well.
Okay. All right, let's hear it. Anybody? Okay, first shout out of the day. Wait. Shout out to Steven, king of all picture takers.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Shout out to the new Antidote NYHC video. That's funny. Is it Radiohead? Is it Seinfeld? You know what?
It is Seinfeld.
Is it Smokey Robinson?
What's the deal with hardcore?
Is it the Yeasty Girls? Okay, well we're gonna have to hold that thought. Is it Emo Biohazard? Is it Souls Asylum? Yeah.
Soul Asylum was a good band.
Hey, this is Bruce. I start hanging out on Siena in 1981. I'm the one that was on Geraldo on the Richard Bay show and the original founder Sharp. Thanks for keeping hardcore alive, man. Peace.
Wow.
Well, welcome to the New York Hardcore Chronicles, Bruce. All right. Is it a shitty band from New Jersey? Is it Snapcase? All right, well, you sent me another one. And you know what? The dude does look like Seinfeld, right?
He does have this with the shirt and everything.
You know what? Here's another one that you sent me. There you go. Any more? Is it Blink 182? Is it Billy Joel on St. Mark's?
You know we can't get out of a show without Billy Joel's name coming up.
Is it Los Tigres del Norte? En la ciudad de Nueva York? Is it Hanson? No. Is it David Lee Roth? Kind of looks like David Lee Roth. Is it Menudo? All right, one more, and we'll do right answers only, please. I've got a right to be wrong. That was an Allman Brothers song. I got a right to be wrong. Wait, hold on. Hold on. The technology is fighting me. Don't fight me, technology. Whoa. See. All right. Is it Buster Poindexter? Is it Ricky Martin? Is it Ricky Martin? Is it Gin Blossoms? Is it Richard Simmons? Is it H2O? All right.
All right, give me some right answers there.
All right, how about some right answers? Is it Sonny Corleone? Is it Quicksand? Is it Devo? Is it David Lee Roth? Is it the Bouncing Souls?
There we go.
Is it the Bouncing Souls? Is it the Bouncing of the Souls? Is it the Bouncing Souls? All right, go.
It's the Bouncing of the Souls. It's Bouncing Souls. Yes, it is. This is Bouncing Souls. In fact, this is the Bouncing Souls from Terminal 5 in New York City, September 19th, 2008. And this was a great show. The bill for the night was Gray Area, Bouncing Souls, Sick of It All. And excellent show. They're kind of an unusual band. They're in the hardcore community, but I don't even know how to really classify them musically. They're a little more diverse and oh yeah, there you go. This is the day sheet. They have some great records though, and I've seen them with the Murphys and Rancid, and but they definitely have the potential to be a lot more radio friendly than a lot of the other hardcore bands. I don't know if you're a fan or not.
I do not really know this band that well. I know them peripherally,
right?
But I am not that acclimated to their material.
I'm a big fan. My favorite is a song called "True Believers" from them, which is great. I believe they shot the video in Seabees for that, and they're just a really cool band, and they're really. Like, I've met them over the years and shot them, and the singer is like really shy. Like when I spoke to him, and And he's one of those guys that just comes alive on stage, but off stage, he was like really to himself, you know?
Tell you what, if anybody out there has like a recommendation for this band, send me a message after the show. You know what?
What?
Let's get crazy. Why don't we get one of these guys from the Bouncing Souls on the show?
That would be a good idea.
Who is this guy?
Who's
the singer for the Bouncing Souls?
You know, I honestly, his name escapes me right now.
I want him on this show.
Bring him to me.
Bring him to me. Don't make me unleash my dogs of war. I want the singer for the Bouncing Souls.
What was the movie? Bring me everyone.
Bring me the head of the singer of the Bouncing Souls.
Crap!
Hey,
now I can't think of his name.
Oh, is that this dude's name? Brian?
I think so.
Greg. Is it Greg? His name is Waddy Buchanan. That's awesome. Oh man. Oh, my in for the Bouncing Souls is Brian Baker. All right. I'm going to call Brian Baker right now on speakerphone.
There you go.
Be like, yo, it's me. Listen.
You know what? I got to say.
All right, here we go.
Oh.
Greg is the vocalist.
Thank you.
Greg Atanito. A Guinea from Jersey? All right. Good. All right, that's it. Bouncing Souls coming up next.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was just going to say, if you've seen any of the, speaking of Brian Baker, Bad Religion has been doing these great decade concerts on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where they did the 80s and the 90s, and they've been so good. So good.
I tell you what, the Brian Baker show that we did is one of the most viewed shows we've ever done.
Ah, well,
that was a great show.
It really was. And he was a gentleman. That guy's a legend in my book, and I think in a lot of people's books.
And we'll cut him some slack because even though he's a Mets fan, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, shouting out Scott Earth from Silence Equals Death. South Jersey they're from. Okay. All right, here we go.
All them Jersey guys are connected.
Yeah, I know Jersey guys, friggin' creeps. All right. I'll talk to you later. We'll see you with our guest. All right?
You got it.
Peace. All right. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, the Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, Generation Records, and The Organic Grill. It's a vegan restaurant located in the East Village of New York City at 123 First Avenue, featured in New York Magazine, New York Times, and Veg News. Their dishes have won numerous awards, including Best Veggie Burger. They make their own cheeses, sausages, and burger patties, and every dish on the menu can be made gluten-free. For all you gluten-free motherfuckers. This year, they're celebrating the 20th anniversary, and they're all about having a great time while enjoying amazing, clean food. After 3 months of being closed, they're now open for deliveries. Get in touch with them. Order some great food at www.theorganicgrill.com. Also, lest we forget, DTFM Vinyl Distro is a record store that specializes in underground music, punk, ska, hardcore metal, and more. Located in the heart of Fargo, North Dakota's Industrial District. Shop in person or online at www.dtfmvinyldistrict.com, where the motto is death to false metal. How about Chacho's Tacos? Located in Corpus Christi, Texas, Chacho's Tacos opened the doors in 2001. Home of the almighty Chacho's Taco. They cook up an incredible home-style Tex-Mex food, and this month they're celebrating the 20th anniversary. They've been supporting underground music since the beginning, and in their own words, we ain't stopping anytime soon. Touring bands that play Corpus Christi, swing by and get a home-cooked meal at Chacho's Tacos. We got you. The underground scene will never die. Please follow us on Facebook or on Instagram. That said, let's quickly talk about a couple upcoming shows. Let me clear the deck. What the heck? Couple upcoming shows. Coming up a week from today. Hey, it's a week from today. May 30th. John Sachs from the FUs and Straw Dogs. my old friend going back to the early 80s. I've known this dude since 1981. Got some cool pictures that actually I took when I was out on the road with them in 1982. Wednesday, July 2nd, Tristan DeGraves from Antidote NYHC and the Undead. This should be a fun show. He is one of my good friends. Sunday, June 6th, John Zazula, Johnny Z from Megaforce. I just read his book. This is going to be cool. Also, you know what? This sort of deserves its own little. Hold on. This deserves its own little thing. Hold on, because I haven't announced this show. Hold on. So, yada-dee-da-da-da. Right. Wednesday, June 9th, just brand new announcing it. From Social Distortion and The Lewd, Mr. Chris Reese is coming on the show. Chris Reese played drums with Social Distortion on The Big Bangers, Prison Bound, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, and the self-titled Social Distortion record. He played on those three records. Before that, he was in The Lewd. This is going to be great. It's about time we had a Social Distortion guy on the show. So here we go. I know there's a lot of people that love Social Distortion out there. It just so happens that I am one of them as well. One last one. Let's mention that on Wednesday, June 16th, Danny Diablo, Joe Fatal, and Big Lito. The circus is coming to town, kids. They got a new project, SPIC, Spanish People in Control. So get ready. Always fun when we have Danny Diablo on. Joe Fatal's another character. I did a music video for him back in the day. So get your shoes and socks on, kids. It's right around the corner. I'm trying to avoid, I'm avoiding like on social media, like putting the name of that up because I'll get flagged and that would be like a drag. So I'm trying to, it's like Danny Diablo, Joe Fatal, and Big Lito, Spanish People in Control. Like, ooh, boy, there you go. That said, you know what? Let's bring our guest on. Let's do it to it. Let's do it to it. All right. And here we go. Today's guest. Well, I feel better when this is up, when like the whole thing's up there. Today's guest is an American guitarist, songwriter hailing from upstate New York. She's known for her work with Last Action, All Fall Down, Growing Up Skipper, Project Kate, Krishna Das, and the Krishna Core Band 108. Please welcome, coming at us from lovely Albany, New York, Kate Reddy, a.k.a. Kaylee Lalita. Hey.
Ah, you did it.
Yeah. Lalita. I got it. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. How's things in the state capitol?
It's just funny because I listened to this, the Toby Morris podcast, and he interviewed a woman who was like escaped from a cult called Nexium. And when she describes that the cult was in Albany, he says, or whatever the guy from Sepultura says, yeah, if people tell you they're from Albany, that's like a red flag, isn't it? So we joke about that. So yeah, it's.
Did you see? Speaking of cults, did you see the Rajneesh multi-part documentary?
I did. I did, and I actually knew some of the people in the documentary because that's like kind of like they do chanting, and that's part of what I'm about. So some of the people in that were people that I knew actually. So
it was. I mean, Netflix stretches things out. It was like to 800 episodes, but it was well done and highly informative. And I remember, of course, I remember the Rajneesh and all that. So that was interesting. Another documentary that I saw was the Source Family documentary, which I saw it for the first time in a film festival. And one of my films was playing in the film festival. And I met the director. And I was like, this looks really interesting. and I sat in the film festival and watched it. It was very good.
Somebody suggested it to me, but I haven't actually watched it yet. But the film about the Rajneeshas was interesting, or the Rajneesh. And he also, like, a lot of his followers are just like incredibly cool people, and like whatever he gave them was valuable to them. And so, you know, it had it's mixed, like all things, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even the Source documentary, the people, you know, they created value for themselves, you know, and so there you go. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what it's all about. Hey, let's how did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? Where did you grow up?
So I did not grow up in a musical household. So I just was attracted to music. And interestingly enough, the first instrument that I played was the flute. But it ties into like probably everything about 108. So, you know, because 108 is a spiritual band, but the person that taught flute in the town where I lived, which was just south of Albany, was actually a disciple of, she was in the Vivekananda Vedanta Vihar. And she was, you know, part of that whole ashram. So I went into the ashram to take flute lessons. So my very, very first exposure to any kind of Eastern philosophy was that I used to like ride my bicycle. I was 7. And I guess in the 1970s, your mom would like send you on your bike to like ride to your flute lesson.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, like a young girl at 7 years old. Like,
you know, it was rural. So I just rode my bike there, and I went in, and they had like, you know, there was this picture of like, they had all these Krishna pictures, and I was like, who's that? I want to know. And then so I took flute lessons there, and I was always really attracted to music and into music. And but I didn't actually, you know, grow up in a family where everyone played instruments. Not at all. My mom is a biochemist, and my dad is like a lawyer, and you know, I just didn't have any real exposure, except that I was really drawn to it. So as much as possible, I started to play instruments, like as many instruments as I could. And I always, there's my mom.
Oh, really? I thought that was you and your daughter.
So, no, I still see, that's when I started wearing overalls. That used to be my thing in 108. I guess I started when I was a little tiny kid. So yeah, so I took flute lessons, and then it all kind of, all of that little town, which was called South Westerlo, which is just south of Albany, was where it all started, and ties into how I was first exposed to any type of hardcore too. So we didn't talk about that, but that's part of the story.
Well, I mean, Albany was a hotbed for hardcore activity early on. I mean, Albany had a very vibrant hardcore scene really early on. And what age were you, or how did hardcore come into your orbit?
So there was, like, where I lived in that little town, which is literally a town with like 7 houses. No joke. It's literally, it hardly could be called a town.
That's awesome.
In that town were 2 things. One was the ashram was there because before the ashram's time, there was what are called resorts, which is where people used to leave New York City and like play shuffleboard. It was kind of like Dirty Dancing, like we're in the movie Dirty Dancing, and they go upstate, and like, so there were a bunch of those because it was in the Catskills.
Resorts.
They were called resorts in the Catskills.
like Grossinger's and you know, those guys. Yeah.
And pools, and people would, and then when that kind of went out of fashion, all these different like ashram places started to move there. But also in the house behind my house was this little like derelict house, and this family from Brooklyn bought the house. And the girl, I was 8, she was 13. I met her when I was 8 years old, but she was already like a punk rocker. So this was like, must have been 1980. See how 82 or 81?
Oh my! Scandalous.
Yeah, 1980, and she became my friend, and she was like my total hero. And she actually already listened to, like, you know, she got me into music, so she had like all these LPs, and it was like the Jam and Squeeze and the Stiff Little Fingers, and she and her best friend was this girl Michelle Skorka, and Michelle is in the book, that CBGB's like photography book, which is called The Matinee, I think. And I didn't know that, but I like opened it up and I'm like, oh my God, it's Michelle. And they were like these two really cool girls that were like into hardcore. And they were into, it was before, kind of a little before like what I knew the word hardcore. It was like punk rock. And so I kind of first heard about it from them. And then when I was like 12, I looked really grown up. Like I was one of those 12-year-old kids that like was fully like, I looked like I could have been 16 or 18 or whatever. I went to New York City and to hang out, and Mara brought me to CB's. I didn't go all the way in. I just stood in the doorway. We had to meet somebody there. And then she was like, oh, you got to check out this band. It's called Reagan Youth. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I mean, I was like little, you know. And then after that, we went to meet Michelle, and she worked for this company called Rock America, and they used to put out videos for MTV. And then they were like, all right, we're taking you to Danceteria. So I was 12. So they like put on like eyeliner.
You're like Drew Barrymore. You're like Drew Barrymore, like going to clubs at 12 years old, you know, like. And I'm afraid what's going to come next. And I was out all night.
We just went to Danceteria and we like we danced. But I was like 12. I was like 12, or I think I was in 7th grade. And then by 8th grade, I figured out. So Mara was like tuning in her radio, and she could hear the SUNY Albany like hardcore radio show that was playing like late at night. I think it was that guy Dave Stein that was doing the radio show. I never actually asked him. And she's like, there has to be shows. So then in 1986, and I think I was just 14, the year before 9th grade, the spring before 9th grade, I saw like a flyer in Albany.
That would be like 1986.
Flag, I'm going.
87?
What is that? It was 86.
Yeah, Black Flag last played, I think, in 86, yeah.
Yeah, so it was 1986. That was my first show. I kept the flyer for like April 22nd, I remember, because I got the flyer for like a very long time. And it was at the SUNY Albany campus ballroom. And I played. I mean, I didn't play. I had my dad drop me off there, and I like went to the show, and it was Albany style and Black Flag. And then, of course, in those days, like you just got a flyer and then you went to the next show. So as soon as I did that, I got like hooked in to the whole community. And then I just did, went to the next show and the next show and the next show like that.
Yeah. James Hollis says, huge shout out to Combined Effort and Dave Stein, #518.
Yeah, they did. And I would see Dave Stein because my dad lived on a street that was like one street away. And I was like, who's that guy? He's like a punk rocker. So like I kind of met them. And then I met the person who would later become my husband. But I was 14 and he was 21. So we were just like, he was in the scene, which is Steve Reddy. And we would just sort of hang out, and like.
Now, Steve was promoting shows up in Albany, correct?
Yeah, so exactly. He was the guy that put the shows on in Albany. So and it just worked out because of where my mom lived out in the country near the ashram and the two punk rocker girls. That was the summer house. My dad lived in Albany, so I would go to my dad's house on the weekends, and he lived literally around the corner from this little club, which is called 288 Lark. And it was this tiny room that had all these mirrors. We would break the mirrors like every week. And then they'd be like, you can't have any more shows. And then we'd have another show, break the mirrors. I don't even know why they kept putting mirrors up, but like Gorilla Biscuits played there. And like all these different bands played there.
April 22nd, 1986, Black Flag played Albany.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And there was one other band, but I don't remember. I remember Albany Style played. And there's like, I actually have somewhere a picture of, and Dave Stein has like a mohawk and like, he's wearing like I think he's wearing a white leather jacket, which is the most not Dave Stein thing to wear. So yeah, so I was there and I made my dad drop me off at the like far away and walk in like I was cool,
Yeah, like
don't want people to know I had a dad or something like something horrible like that.
Oh my God, you're embarrassing me, Dad.
Yeah, so embarrassing.
Yeah.
My dad also took me to see the movie Repo Man. And he was like, I think these are like your people. And like they're moshing in the parking lot or whatever.
your people.
Yeah, he's like, these are your people. These are your friends. These are like your friends.
Check your people. That's great.
Yeah, he took me to see Repo Man, which was really cool. My dad was cool.
I know we're skipping around a little bit, but let's jump to this.
Okay.
What's happening here?
That was if anyone wants to know who started the most androgynous, the new most androgynous look, it was me. So the summer between, I think, 9th and 10th grade, that's me with the microphone. And I was in a band called Last Action. And Last Action was, 4 kids from Albany, including myself. And we wrote some music and we practiced in my friend Shannon's boy, friend Shannon's basement. And I was the singer, which I can't even tell, like, there's no girls singing in hardcore bands, literally, y'all. And we had, we probably played a set that lasted 20, maybe 18 minutes. And this is at the VFW. So the VFW was a place that shows were in Albany. There's actually a really famous, fantastic picture of Craig Satari, Richie Birkenhead. There's 4 people. Who was the 2 other people? It was BJ Pappas and somebody else. And my memory is bad because I'm getting to be old. And they're like, they're standing like behind where I am singing. They weren't at this show, but I do remember that when we played with Wolfpack, which was Steve's band, and Underdog. And when Wolfpack played, Steve said, "What does everyone think of Kate Kinlan?" And then I thought he was like complimenting me, but I realized now he was being sarcastic. And he goes, "Woo, she's hot." There's nothing hot. There's nothing hot about me that or that. But it was fun. And then we just played that one show, and Shannon's mom lived in Wisconsin, so he had to go back. And then so that was like my first hardcore band. So I was 14.
I just found I'm looking in my archives here. I got to grab a couple of these real quick.
No problem.
These are all like Albany, right around that era photos.
Yeah, they were great shows.
I might nail it here. Hold on.
Okay, I'm ready.
This one says Albany. What?
I mean, once we started going to shows, we didn't stop. We were like committed. It was like, like
this is May 28th, 1986. Now I know this is an interesting one in Albany. This is GBH, Agnostic Front, and Youth of Today at the VFW Hall.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
I remember seeing GBH, at least. I feel like, and I remember someone that told me it means great big haircuts. And I was like, what's that? It was the time when all you had to do to be punk rock was wear like a bandana somewhere on your body, and you had to tie a flannel shirt around your waist. And then you were like, okay, I'm ready.
This one says, Rabies, Albany, 1986, photo Kathleen Tobin. So,
yeah,
Warzone,
I don't remember seeing Warzone that time, but I remember seeing Warzone at the Rock Hotel. I remember seeing Warzone at another place, which was called the Hibernians. And he was like, which is hilarious. He was like, blah, 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 I'm straight edge. This is straight edge. We should be straight edge. And then I saw him like a month later at the Rock Hotel playing with Murphy's Law. And I'm like, he's not actually straight edge. I'm deducing from the situation. I will tell you that one of my great strokes of genius early motherhood was taking my 6-month-old baby to Raby's funeral. So, I mean, there's not many 25-year-olds that can.
That's true. Here, one last Albany.
We went with our baby, and we were like, it was just. Anyway, it's kind of a joke in our family, but it was sad.
One last Albany 1986 photo. This is John Sachs from the FUs and Dave Smalley from I think it could be 84 actually, this one. But anyway.
Yeah, that's before me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. then, so you only played one show with this band?
So I only played one show with.
How does that happen? How does a band? I've never heard of such a thing. How do you get it all together and play one show?
I did it twice. I did the same thing in the Giving Tree. I don't know. I think it's just, it just was what happened. I mean, for me, it was like, I don't know if we had a vision beyond getting a show in Albany. It was like our goal. We're like, we're going to get a show in Albany. And like Underdog was like, and is one of my all-time favorite bands. And Wolfpack was like the big Albany band. And they let us open. And we were like, okay, we've checked that off the list maybe. But part of it is like the guitar player, he went back to Wisconsin for the winter. So then it was like, it was over, and then we kind of moved on to other things.
And one of the things you moved on to in 1988, you played bass in All Fall Down.
Yeah. So after that, I tried to play the bass a little, like in Last Action. I was like, I can play the bass, whatever. It's just how hard can it be? I went to this musical high school, actually. So that's part of like my musical upbringing was I went to a Waldorf school, and every single kid plays like 100 instruments in that type of school. It's like a music and art high school. So basically like every kid is like I can play the piano, I can play the saxophone. And if you couldn't, people were like, wait, you can't play 5 instruments. So I just,
wrong with you?
I play the bass. So I just, at the band, so we kind of formed this band, and it was just like, we actually played a lot of shows. We played, we played at the Anthrax, and like that was a pretty big deal. I mean, in my mind, and we recorded a 7-inch, and we were kind of like trying to make. I mean, I don't think we had it like in mind, but we made like kind of power pop music. Sometimes when I listen back to it, I'm like, that wasn't so bad. So I think I was 16, and then we played the NYU radio show.
Oh yeah.
And it was like on a Tuesday night or something. So my dad rented us a van like illegally. We drove it into the city. None of us were old enough. We busted the windows off of by bad driving and an accident off of a police van and just kept going. Yeah, it was like, we're like, drive. But Mark Ryan hooked it up. So we went and we played the NYU radio show, and then we drove there, we did it, and then we drove home. And like my mother was a teacher at the high school. She's like, get up, you're going to school. I slept for like 10 minutes. So, but that's what we did. I mean, it felt like a huge opportunity at the time. It seemed like super cool, like Super Touch, we were like heroes, and we got invited to do this really cool thing. And then they All Fall Down, played a lot after I went to college then. So yeah, but I mean, it was like a cargo van. The funny thing, it was a cargo van that was from this place called Lemon Rentals.
It's like Rent a Wreck. It's like Rent a Wreck.
The defense attorney gave me the fatherly advice that he always gave me. He's like, don't get arrested. That's what he would always say to me. And I'm like, okay. And I was like,
good advice. I didn't think of that.
Anyway, hilarious.
Let's touch on because I feel that there's a segue here.
Okay.
And that's spirituality as a young teen.
Okay.
How does spirituality come into your young life at this point? Oh, is that one of Toby Morris's water drinks?
It's water. It looks like I'm breaking edge, but I would never do that. So look at this. Mountain water, liquid death. It's a source of all life. It murders your thirst.
Oh, that's funny.
So I had some attraction to spirituality, like always. And I always like had some type of like thing where I would go sit in trees, and like I was really drawn toward like almost like pantheism of like seeing the divine in nature. But I knew Steve Reddy. He joined the Krishnas with Ray. I went to a show at CBGB's. I think I was 15, must have been 15. I could have been 16. I went to the show and I stayed at my friend Mara's house because she lived in Park Slope. She had her house up here, and then she lived in Park Slope. So after the show, I stayed there, and then I was going to get a ride home to Albany, and I went to the temple to meet them.
In Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn Temple, yeah. So I went to Schermerhorn Street.
I remember it. Yep.
And they met me, and they like met, you know, I met them, and then they got me some food, and that's like what the Krishnas do. That's how they get you.
The food is good.
The food is good. But it was really interesting because when I walked into the temple, all of these like memories from my childhood of that Vivekananda, the Vedanta Vihar, which was the name of that ashram, like came flooding back to me. And I just so desperately was like wanting to know what this was about. And I had just read Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, and I had read Emerson because we had to read them at school, and they spoke about the Bhagavad Gita. So I was familiar with the Bhagavad Gita from reading that in my high school, because I went to this just super amazing, very evolved high school. And so that I kind of had a rudimentary knowledge of what the Bhagavad Gita was about. So they started to talk about it. And, you know, hardcore does a really good job of like expounding on the first noble truth of Buddhism, which is life is suffering. And that's also it's not so carefully written out, but you would call like these Eastern traditions, we call them moksha traditions, which means traditions which bring about liberation. Moksha means liberation. Mm-hmm. So in all the moksha traditions, there's this description, like in the Bhagavad Gita, it says sarvam dukkam. It means everything is frustrating. Dukkam is cognate with the English word dukki. It means everything sucks, kind of, in the material world. And then it gives you the pathway to get past it. So I was like, you know, I'd done a lot of like life is suffering, hardcore, like blasting my eardrums out. And I was kind of like a little bit, even at 16, I was like, what comes next? You know, like, okay, so life is suffering. So for me, then I was kind of attracted to it. But in Albany at the time, there was this really strong faction of like people that almost semi-imitated the East Bay, like anti-religion punk rocker people. And so I felt confused by what faction I should join. The truth of the matter is, and this is really important now in our hardcore scene, there's no factions. We're not sectarian. We're not a sectarian group. We should all be behaving as a family, even if we don't totally agree on these different topics, but we shouldn't be dividing. So in the same way, I had that same theory back then. I've always had that theory. And so I guess the first time I went to the temple was then. And then, you know, then I lost touch with Steve, and they became devotees of Krishna. I knew about the Cro-Mags. I had, you know, when someone in Albany got Age of Quarrel, we literally had like what is called, we didn't call it a listening party, but there was only one record you could get. Somebody got it from some records, and we brought it all the way home, and we put it on the turntable. And I remember like the cover of the Age of Quarrel, and we were just like sitting around, like listening to the record together. And I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, like this is something. And then this is something that's going to mean powerful stuff. It's going to mean something in my life, something beyond just music.
Seekers of the truth.
So, yeah. So I went to college in New York City, and I was sort of seeking some type of spiritual thing. And I took like courses in comparative religion, and I did meditation of light and sound with Tucker Singh, and I went to this New York Zen Center, and I did all these things. And then that kind of came, I guess then a year later in the summer between freshman and sophomore year, I went to Lollapalooza.
Oh boy, there you go.
Like Mike Judge is
like, the watershed moment.
I wanted to see, I was like, how is this even happening? I did like Jane's Addiction, although I didn't think they were good that day, but I was like, I wanted to see Body Count, and I was like, how is this happening? Like, how's our world like now expanded into this giant festival? And I bumped into Steve Reddy there in the field of like 20,000 people. There he is. And, you know, in high school, of course, I had
husband. There he is.
He was with some metal chick, because I was his flavor.
goddamn metal chicks, man. You know that.
Yeah, they were upstaging me all the time because I
bane of my existence.
So someone had told him, "Oh, you should see Kate." My name was Kinlan. You should see Kate Kinlan now. And they said she doesn't look like a boy anymore. So all modern politics about gender fluidity aside, I fully support all of that, and and understand how important that is. But at the time, so I had been like racked this total straight edge boy look. I had shaved head. I had like big pants. I had like I even had the Air Jordans and everything. And then I kind of grew my hair out, and then I saw Steve, and I was like, "Lava boom!" He's still totally like, he was the it guy in Albany hardcore. He was the one, So he wrote my phone number down, and we connected and hung out, and then he took me to the temple. So he went, we hung out there, and he was kind of like leaving the ashram. He didn't know what he was doing. He was in a little bit of a crisis of faith. And then he took me to the temple in Brooklyn. This is the second time I went. And when I walked in there, I was like full on. I mean, I walked in and I bowed down to the deities. Like I didn't have any clue what was going on. I just had this like very like full body experience of like, this is it, and then it just kind of, it stuck. And just like with hardcore where I just kept going, it kind of stuck.
Is that somewhere around that time?
So that came a little later. So
you still got like the hardcore pose going though.
I know. Well, the whole thing that happened with that was that everybody in the hardcore scene, like one of their big bone of contentions with the Krishnas were that they were really sexist, and that's actually accurate. It's very like that version of Vaishnavism was super patriarchal. Right. And not all of them are, but that one really was. But there wasn't another one in the United States. So I was like, I got to just do it and try to see what I can do within the spaces. So that girl.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
2 points for the X swatch.
Oh yeah, I still have one now too. It broke, and I try to get it fixed, and they have to laser it open. So I just like if anyone wants to sell me an X swatch, whenever I wear it, I feel like such a straight edge badass. So this picture, which was taken by this guy Josh, who takes a ton of pictures, took a lot of hardcore pictures. We decided that we were going to do. It was like right when the Riot Girls were starting to be a thing, and we were like, we're going to make a fanzine, and it was not totally my idea. It was Norm from Texas Is the Reason. He's like, you should do this fanzine. You should call it Krishna Girl. And I was like, fuck yeah. And the woman that I did it with, her name is Seva Priya. So at the time, the Riot Girls were like writing slurs on their body, like slut and bitch.
Right.
So we were like writing like in the ISKCON world, like all of the men would call me Mataji, which should be a really affectionate term. But when you're 19 years old, having someone call you dear mother is just like, it was awful. And also they used it, like they weaponized that word. They would be like, they were not kind with it. So we decided that we were gonna like revolutionize this 5,000-year-old religion and write this fanzine. But I have to tell you, it kind of worked. It kind of worked because, I was just like, no, I'm not letting the patriarchy steal my spiritual practice from me. No, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to own it. It's going to be mine. So that's kind of how it came about. We just decided to do it. So we did this whole fanzine, and we tried to show like how in the tradition there was so much worship of the sacred feminine, and that actually the idea is that Krishna is never worshipped without his female counterpart, who's named Radha, and the description of them is that they're never separated. Like just like they use the example of the chickpea. Like a chickpea, if you squeeze it, it breaks into two parts, but you wouldn't call it two chickpeas. It's one chickpea. It's made of these two parts. It can't exist without the two parts. So in the same way, this religion really actually very much honored the sacred feminine. And once you dive into it a little beyond like the Americanized version of it, it's almost goddess worship. Like it's mostly God. If you go to the town where Krishna is born, people don't greet each other by saying something about Krishna. They say they say Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, which means all victories to the sacred feminine. That's how they say hello to each other. So you really start to understand that this tradition is just sort of much deeper and much more matriarchal than you would know from just our exposure to the Krishnas in America.
So let me steer it a little bit. So let me steer it back into music a little bit here.
Okay.
This is 108.
Yep.
Correct? Tell us a little bit about how you came, how 108 kind of came into your orbit, and of course, leading into the record, the great record, Songs of Separation, that you play on.
So basically, like right before I joined the Krishnas, I was in this band with Jane from the Yeasty Girls and this other girl, Laura, who went on and was in other bands that I can't remember the name of right now. But it was this like ultra feminist punk band, and we mostly played at ABC Now Rio. It was never really my scene, I have to say.
Was it Growing Up Skipper?
Growing Up Skipper, which was the name of this doll that if you turned her arm backwards, she would grow breasts. And we were like, this is fucked up. So part of the whole Riot Girl thing was to diffuse the power out of stuff that had been kind of disempowering. So we were like, we're taking that and we're going to own it. So Growing Up Skipper recorded a record, and it was the guy from God Is My Co-Pilot put it out. Mm-hmm. And it was actually, he actually sent it to Kim Gordon, and she chose it as her favorite 7-inch of that year in Spin Magazine or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah. So, but what happened was I totally was like, fuck this. I don't want to be in this Riot Girl band. I just want to move to the temple. And so I was kind of a jerk actually, and just like didn't go to they had a record release party, and I was just so done by then. I just kind of bailed out of the whole thing. And so because I was like already a hardcore girl, and I was like playing in bands and stuff after Shelter formed, and that was like Ray and Purcell and two like Ashram Krishna guys. And then it had originally been Vic Takara. Vic started his own band, 108, much more in his flavor of he's just really esoteric being.
If I could just interject here, for those that may not know out there, that Vic Takara was in Inside Out. And Inside Out was the first band that Zach from Rage Against the Machine was in. So it was Zach singing with Vic. Vic was playing guitar, and they actually had a song called Rage Against the Machine. And then they split their separate ways, and Zach started a band called Rage Against the Machine. I think Vic went into the temple at that point.
Yeah.
And when he came out, at some point, he started 108.
Well, we were in the temple, actually. We lived in the temple. We lived in the Philadelphia temple. And it was kind of like, we were kind of trying to fight this concept that the Krishnas were sexist. I played guitar. I actually played guitar and bass. And I didn't play that kind of guitar, but I was like, I can learn it. So he's like, here's how you play false harmonics. And, I was like a fully like a hardcore kid, So I just sat with Vic, and he just like taught me. He's a great guitar teacher and player. And then it was like, we just sort of formulated this band, and 108, they had recorded before I was in the band. Vic had, in the basement of the temple, recorded the record, which is called Holy Name. And then after that, I got in the band, and we did like a 60 date summer tour with Shelter, like all around the United States.
Wow.
And then, and I had my orange guitar from Growing Up Skipper, and then, which I bought from Walter, actually, who used to be his guitar. He used to play it in Quicksand, and you can see some pictures of him in the early times. And I was like, I want that orange guitar. So I bought that guitar from him, and I didn't know that much about it. Had like active pickups.
You're talking about the butterscotch Strat?
It's orange. It's actually bright orange. It looks butterscotch. Oh, maybe it's called butterscotch. I don't know. I was never a gearhead.
Yeah, I think one of our people will know. Is that a butterscotch Strat, or is that an orange? What do you call that? A guitar people.
It's actually an ESP.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was bright orange. I mean, you can't tell in this picture, but I do think it's important to notice that I'm wearing a fanny pack in the picture, which is kind of upsetting. But
especially on stage, it was like so important part of your stage attire. Like,
I guess so. I think I had things in it. I don't really know, but I'm just like, oh, good God. Anyway, so
okay, it's an orange ESP Strat with EMGs.
That's correct. How do you know that? That's amazing. I didn't even know about the EMGs, and I was like, why is this guitar getting less and less loud? And then I was like, because it. I didn't know that. Like, I hadn't anyway. So. Namaste. So anyway, I played that, and then we went to Europe, and we played Refused. We played with Refused, and they opened for us, which is hilarious. And they were so cool, and they were like really still good friends of mine. I'm gonna bring back the fanny pack. Okay. Everybody tried to get me to wear overalls. I used to always wear big giant overalls. They're like, wear overalls now. My daughter's got me a pair of overalls now, so I can wear them. So So that's kind of how 108 formed. It was just that actually not just us, not just the 8 people that were in those two bands, but there were like a ton of kids from the hardcore scene. That whole Philadelphia tempo was just all hardcore kids, like pretty much all of us. I don't even know. There were a couple of like Indian guys. I don't know what they thought of it. Like it was.
This record is incredible. I've been listening to it over and over again since I booked you for the show.
Yeah.
I love it. It's really great. Any memories? Let's talk about this record a little bit. What we in our pre-show a little bit. Bad Brain's influence on this record, and any memories of recording this album?
Yes, I do. I remember being in Don Fury's studio. And there's a song on the record. I don't know why this sticks with me. There's a song on the record called Shikshastakam. And in Krishna consciousness and the scripture, the Shikshastakam are the seven teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And he says we should be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. And there's all these those were his only teachings that he left. And Lord Chaitanya was an incarnation of Radha and Krishna in one body. So every time we were like trying to get into recording Shikshastakam, John Fury would go, okay, a razor and a soda, because he was remembering Shikshastakam. And I remember that there were like tons and tons of mosquitoes.
In Don's place?
Yes. And we talked on Fury that if he kept killing the mosquitoes, and we're like, you can't kill mosquitoes, it's bad karma. And so like he's like, what am I supposed to do? They're eating me alive. And we're like, just chant the names. So he'd be like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And I had to go. I remember that when I was recording, I recorded stuff, and then they were like, you got to come out, because I always wear like a lot. I was wearing these glass bangles from India.
Was this the Don Fury's that was down in the basement?
Right down there. You got to go down those steps, and there's where the mosquitoes are.
Yep.
And I had to take my bangles off. So it's funny, on the record it says that I played bangles, but it was this whole kind of. I mean, it was interesting because Vic recorded most of it. Vic is like, he's such a brilliant guitar player and had such a vision for the record. You know what I mean? So like, if I play anything, and this is not true now, but at the time, he just fed me what I played. I didn't write it. I'm not going to take credit for that, but I didn't mind because I completely connected to it anyway. I mean, it was just, for me, it was like, it didn't matter. I wanted to be part of the vision of what he was doing. He quite honestly wrote the drum tracks. Like, everything was him, and that's changed.
It was fully his vision.
It was really his vision, and I think that in Inside Out, maybe he hadn't had creative license in the same way or whatever. Mm-hmm. And in 108, it was Vic, and it is to some degree now. I mean, the guy is like kind of one of the most brilliant like songwriters, and he's so genius and he's so original, and like you don't actually, I think one of the genius things about Songs of Separation is sometimes you hear the song and you're not really sure where it's going. And the other thing that's interesting about it, and I hope this isn't too much like philosophy, but the concept of being in separation is one of the most esoteric heartbeats of our spiritual practice, because the idea is that we're always in longing for divinity. We're, the word yoga means the linking of the Atman, the soul, with the divine soul. So Songs of Separation was meant to be this, I don't want to say manifesto, that's not the right word, but this poetry of the soul's longing for union with divinity. And there's this idea that separation is even more powerful than union. So you kind of want to hover in this state of separation. And the idea is like, if you were to be standing in front of Krishna, the devotee would be seeing Krishna standing in front of them. So that would be one thing. But when you're in separation from Krishna, you see Krishna everywhere. So that's like the name Songs of Separation. And it was just quite this like esoteric idea. He always just dove into the deepest heart of the matter. He didn't shy away from that. He didn't write about anything mundane. All of the songs are like, kind of like, it almost could be like a 15th century saint writing the lyrics.
Well, I mean, like the track that we played to open the show, Deathbed, is for me a little bit of kind of the standout track on that album.
That was always my favorite to play.
Intense. It's intense.
Yeah.
I got to take a break and shout out sponsors and do a couple other things. We'll come back and we'll do album of the week together. Okay.
Great.
See you in a bit. What's happening, everybody? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and our guest today is Kate Reddy from 108 and Project Kate. It is Shout Out Sunday. We are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, the Texas Silver Rush, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, and Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards. Located in Lakewood, Colorado, is the Rocky Mountain headquarters for all things punk, hardcore, and metal. Established in 2014, they have the largest selection of CDs, records, shirts, stickers, patches, and accessories between Chicago and Los Angeles. From the pit to the ditch, they've got your back. Get in touch with them at www.chainreactionrecords.com. Also, the Texas Silver Rush is a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with all musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rolle, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. During this current pandemic, all information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram page, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Want to mention a couple of my new patrons that have jumped on the boat and are supporting this show. Are you supporting this show? Are you just lurking? You don't have to lurk anymore. You can come in from the cold and support this show. This show needs your support. Your support is what makes this show happen. I want to shout out my new patrons, Ben Lejeau, Daniel, Craig Holloway, Matt LaGrady, Happy Jack, Brian Debnam, Zachary Kinney. Also, there's a PayPal address there too. If the Patreon thing is just too much for you to deal with, if you're on the lam and you don't have a credit card, and you're like, hey, listen, I might get locked up any minute now, but I love this show and I want to support it. There is a PayPal address right there. Want to shout out Kenneth Dutton, Jim Hogan, Steve Reber, and Raymond Hogan. Of course, if your name is Hogan, you have a moral obligation to support this show. It's like 800 Hogans support this show. I love you, Hogans. Shout out to all the lurkers. Shout out to Judy. Absolutely. There you go. Shout out to SoCal post-hardcore in the early 90s. Okay. Great show, brother. Right on. What else do I need to mention? Oh, you know what? Coming up Sunday, June 27th, it's going to be Keeler. Absolutely Keeler. Max Cavalera is coming on the show. You know him, you love him. Sepultura, Soulfly, Cavalera Conspiracy, Killer Be Killed. Go ahead and die. So Max is coming on the show. It's going to be great. I have a little bit of a history with Max. You know, I produced the Sepultura Third World Chaos video back in the day. Also, Sunday, June 30th, which also happens to be my dad, Arnie Stone's birthday, so we're going to have to get him on the show. Steve Birnbaum is coming on the show. He has a Instagram page called The Band Was Here, where he tracks down iconic locations from rock and roll photos and album covers and stuff. I love this guy's page on Instagram. Lots of cool stuff, especially here in New York. So we're gonna get. Yes, I did. I produced that. We've talked about that before. Right? Hold on, let me find that. Where is that? Let me find that. Well, maybe it's hold on. Sepultura third. Sepultura. Rah, not rah. All right, I give up on this one. Not sure what happened. Yeah, anyway. Birnbaum translated as Pear Tree. Well, Mr. Pear Tree's coming on the show to talk about his rock and roll photos. So there you go on that. Sepultura, Biohazard, and Pantera toured, or at least played here in Maryland. Yeah, they played here. I'll give it one more try, Lenny. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. Here it is. I have found it. Maybe I did spell it wrong. For those who remember the VHS days, I produced this in 91, I think. Yeah. So remember when VHSs were all the rage? So yeah, Third World Chaos. We'll talk about this and lots of cool Sepultura stuff. We'll probably bring a couple of guests on. So Max Cavalera. I think I got everything else covered. Yeah. There is a super chat. If you want to contribute to the show or you have a burning desire, a burning question for Kate, please feel free to spend a few bucks and put it in super chat. It comes up in color and I can't miss it. Also on the Patreon page, every other Wednesday, we do a Patreon only show. Since we do every other Wednesday live publicly, the other Wednesday we do on Patreon. And of course, we go out and do the Drew Stone Cinematic and Music Walking Tour. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So there you go. Yeah. All right. Enough with Third World Chaos already. That said, why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? Fruit of the day. Name this fruit. Fruit of the day. That said, let's bring our guest back on. Kate Reddy, hi.
Hey.
Hey, it's Sunday, you know.
So someone was asking, do you still have that guitar? Do you still have the guitar?
You saw that.
I don't. I sold it on eBay. I had a baby and I had no money, so I sold my guitar on eBay, but I really regret it. I regret it. Never, here, word to all you young kids, never sell any of your guitars ever. Just keep them because you can never get them back and you always regret it. You never think, oh, I'm so happy I got rid of that. So
I did the same thing. I was given a Fender Mustang bass as a teenager. And I have it in the early hardcore days, and I was sort of on the skids a little bit at one point and went down to like, Chelsea guitars, and they gave me peanuts for it.
Well, like, here's $100, and you're like, score, and now you're like,
it was 75,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that said, hey, let's do album of the week together. Let me clear everything out of the way. Let's bring on Sid the Kid. What's up, Sid?
What up, Drew? What's going on, Kate? How are you guys?
Good.
It's a nice hot day out in the city, and that's why I'm in here.
Hey, I wouldn't know about what goes on in the outer world. I'm the guy that never leaves the apartment.
Exactly.
So,
you're the introvert.
I'm the Drew Stone version that stays at home. And,
Exactly.
Fortunately, I figured out how to clone myself. Let's do album of the week together, huh? Here we go.
I love this one, Kate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Oh, God, I don't know what it is. Okay.
Album of the week. There
Boom!
you go. Okay. Sid, you have the floor.
Well, I mean, I'm going to keep this one short and sweet because it's such a good show today, guys. Obviously, you got to know what fucking band this is, and this is Youth of Today. This is their first LP entitled Break Down the Walls, which was released by Wishing Well Records back in 1986. Actually was also released later on, I believe, in 1988 by Revelation, which a lot of people know about that. And believe it or not, this was also, if I'm not mistaken, this was actually remastered, I believe, in the early 2000s. They wanted to, kind of clean it up a bit, which honestly, I actually think the remastered version is really more of a rawer feel than the original. Nothing to take away from it, but this is that straight hardcore record. It mixes with the whole straight edge mentality, but also being at the time in the '86 crossover being the bigger thing. Not so many hardcore bands were doing the same old thing, but Ray and the crew just wanted to go out and bring it back style of how this record was. And honestly, for me, it's a banger from front to end. And even for some people don't even know, Richie from Underdog plays second guitar in this. Craig Satari also, before he left, he went to go reform Straight Ahead after this album was released. This record honestly is one of those hard, as even some of the guys here are saying in the chat, it's one of the most hardest records in New York hardcore, period, especially at that time. I really can't say as much as I can about it. Guys got to give this record a listen for yourself, and you will hear it, because you can just hear as hard as it is. It still has that raw feel, even if it's the original or the remastered version. It still all sounds hard as fuck.
Well, right on, Sid. Kate, is this an album that resonates for you in any capacity?
Well, I'll just tell you the story about when. Oops. It's a thunderstorm in Albany. The doors just blew open on both sides.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was my door blowing open. Hang on 1 second.
Dang weather.
Stand by. There's a thunderstorm.
I never. Don't get mad, because I love Mike Judge, and he's shout out to Mike Judge. I know he's watching, and he's like my favorite person in the entire universe, pretty much. So, I mean, I know that he was in Youth of Today, so I can't say anything. And I love Richie Birkenhead. We're still really good friends. And I love him so much. He's such an awesome person. But somehow, I never really got that into Youth of Today. But I have a good story. Mm-hmm. Because, Youth of Today is like, they're iconic. So, like everybody loves Youth of Today. But I was in high school when it came out. And I remember when I was at this guy's house who's named Jason O'Toole, and he was in a band later called Life's Blood.
Yes, of course.
And Sam McFeeters. So the three of us were hanging out at Jason's house. This album came out. They put it on the turntable and proceeded to mosh around the living room and stage dive. And I was like, God, boys are fucking stupid. It's ridiculous. So it might have soured me a little, but I have to say, like, I was always more of a Minor Threat straight edge kid. That was like more my bag. But of course, I can't I have to say, Youth of Today is, what can you say? It's a hardcore classic. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's interesting that you bring up Minor Threat in that context, because I'm a little bit. Obviously, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest guy. I'm the oldest person in the room here, and part of the first wave of American hardcore. And I actually, saw Minor Threat a bunch of times and was around when all that stuff first came out. So, Minor Threat really resonated for me as a teenager. And by the time Youth of Today came around, I was in my 20s, early 20s, 22, 23. And those guys were teenagers. And it just seemed like, when you're that young, a couple years is like...
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. And I didn't really connect with Youth of Today. I really felt that, I sort of had, I get it. I sort of was around for the for the first go round of that or whatever. That was my thinking at the time. So I missed the boat on Youth of Today initially. Fortunately, my life as a music historian and as a documentary filmmaker, I've circled back and made it my business in directing the New York Hardcore Chronicles film and things like that to really become acclimated with a lot of music, including Youth of Today, including Judge, including Gorilla Biscuits. These are bands that, when they were having their sort of moment, I was onto other things a little bit those years. So fortunately, I can relate. I ended up circling back, and I love Youth of Today now, and I love Judge, and I love Gorilla Biscuits. And
Judge is honestly quite possibly the greatest, or in the top 3 greatest hardcore bands. I mean, they just revolutionized hardcore, and for me, in terms of straight edge or whatever, I think it's more I might almost have skipped over Youth of Today. And I think there's another factor too, and this is just maybe a thing about that. The time was they were such a jock sports boys club. It was really hard as a female to to kind of penetrate into that. I mean, it wasn't the best choice of words. I'm basically like Tobias, and to really become part of that or feel like part of it. But it's Youth of Today. I mean, you don't have to say anything. And Drew played on that. Drew played on Break Down the Walls. Who played drums?
Yes, actually, I believe so. He did. And then, of course, I believe Sammy took his spot afterwards. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, after the Break Down the Walls tour, like I said, obviously Craig left to do the Straight Ahead reunion, and then Walter from Gorilla Biscuits filled in on bass at that point.
Yeah, and Steve Reddy, my husband, was their tour manager. He just came down to get his snacks. So
Steve.
That's the source right there. He can vouch for all of that.
He can, yeah. So he, and it's funny for me too, because Raghunath, Ray Capo is he's a family friend, and all of them, So, for me, they were some of the bands that I didn't get so super deeply into their music, but some of them I just became really good friends with. I mean,
Youth of Today was literally the first hardcore band I saw.
Oh, wow.
TVs. It was Youth of Today, Damage, Agnostic Front, CBGB's December 15th, 85. That was the Cause for Alarm record release show.
Wow.
And at that time, and going back to, they didn't have that jock mentality crap going on at the time. They were just a hardcore band. It was, to me, as Drew said, he got to see Minor Threat. I never had that chance. So for me, it was a new.
They were your guys, yeah.
But it was just more.
I mean, you can't underestimate let's just say this: you can't underestimate the influence that a band like Youth Today had on the history.
Obviously not. No,
what happened down the walls in terms of all of that. Yes,
we've talked many times about art being cyclical in nature,
and
that my generation had Minor Threat, your generation had Youth of Today. This generation today, I
think I was on the cusp. I think I'm close enough to your age that I was Minor Threat was I used to listen to that Minor Threat record, which I only had on a cassette, which someone recorded for me, over and over and over and over. And then for me, it was Can I Say, No Dag Nasty. Then it was
what can I say?
Swizz and Rites of Spring, and a lot of those DC bands just kind of resonated with me more. And I think there was more in Style of 13, yes, definitely, and definitely Uniform Choice. I think there was just a little more space for me, and Youth of Today felt I felt like I was watching a boys' soccer match or something. And I was all right, you guys go do your show. I'm gonna.
Right.
And I did, there were bands at that similar time, but in those years, like 1 or 2 years was just like a huge difference. But I'm gonna give all respect to Youth of Today, because I think it's important to recognize the significance of what they were. But in terms of like my personal like commitment to being straight edge was really a Youth of Today thing. So
Thanks, Sid.
it's really a Minor Threat thing.
Thank you, Sid.
All right, thanks a lot, guys, and everybody enjoy the show and keep watching. Like, even I'm just being entertained, just like a lot of the stuff that Kate has to say.
Let me entertain you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Sid. We'll talk to you later, Sid.
All right,
Thank
cheers,
you.
guys.
Bye.
All right. I'm an entertainer.
I have a lot of good stories. It's funny because I was like in the mix of all that, and I never really thought I had any kind of like historical like contribution or something like that. But
Yeah.
it turns out I did.
Yeah, for sure. And time and the reflection of time is sort of interesting like that. It's for a long time I struggled with my identity and like what sort of a legacy am I leaving? I sang in this band and I sang in that band and I tour managed and I had a career doing music videos and I had a career doing extreme sports films and that kind of, but there came a certain point where combined, all of a sudden, all that stuff had some weight to it and some gravity. And I had a career. And looking back on it, it's like, oh, you did this, you did this, you did that. But you got to hang in there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was interesting because I had little kids and stuff like that, and then they were teenagers, and I was growing these kids and being a mom, and we own Equal Vision, so that was happening. So I wasn't ever really disconnected from music entirely. But then it was like every time 108 would do shows again, they would say, "Can you come play?" And I was always like, "Well, I'm just not on the space,
Yeah.
And then when I did, I was like, it was funny because we didn't really rehearse or anything. Like I just played at home, and then we went and then we played backstage. And then when I played with them, like the second, like we always just do this thing where we play the conch shell at the beginning of 108 shows. I don't know if you know about that, but that's like something it's like a shell. It's
Conch.
Like they're blown at the beginning of like worship, and they were also blown at the beginning of the Battle of Kurukshetra. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's to mark the beginning of something. So like I got on stage and they blow the conch shell, and it was like every single thing just came back to me in like 1 second. Like there'd been no time elapsed, and then I just like fully reconnected, and it was like this great moment. And it was funny because my oldest daughter came to the show, and she was like, "Mom, why?" they didn't know me. They didn't know me in that capacity at all. There weren't a lot of videos. There wasn't a lot of film in that. Right. It wasn't like everything was filmed like now. So it kind of came full circle then. And I had been playing. I'd been playing more like kirtan music. Oh, Project Kate. Yeah, we have to cover that one before the end.
I'm just throwing it right in. I'm just like throwing it right in your lap, like bam.
So Project Kate was a band that I did with Sergio from Quicksand, and this guy John, it was originally Al Cage played with me, but then it was like he couldn't do it, and then this guy John Crichton, who had been in the band Collapse and Absolution.
I think Sergio was in Collapse too.
Yes, he was in Collapse, and then basically I just I didn't have a lot of creative license in 108, and I had all this music that I had been writing, and I had this other kind of music that I wanted to record, and I was like, okay, why not? And then I was actually really pregnant when I recorded it, so it was a little challenging.
As opposed to pregnant, there's what difference there is pregnant, pretty pregnant, and then really pregnant.
I was pretty pregnant, so I was like holding the guitar, my stomach was like big, and I was like, I had to sit like this sideways and play the guitar because my stomach was already too big. It's also really hard to stay up all night when you're pregnant and then you're tired. So it was that, and then it was Norm Arenas. Norm has a different last name now, and I always say his name wrong. Norman Brennan, who was in he was in Texas Is the Reason, and he was our roommate. So he and I were like writing music, and it was Garrett from also from Texas, but he had been in this band Copper. And then one of the songs, which is totally not credited, which is, I'm not exactly sure why not or what I was thinking. By the time the record came out, I was in Babyland. But one of the songs, which is called California, I wrote that. I played with Blake from Jawbreaker. He basically taught me that riff, and I just kind of, in a very not cool way, it was released on Equal Vision. I just kind of incorporated it into the song, and I never thought anything would really come of it. I just kind of wrote. But he was someone that I played music with. I had the realization recently that I played with Al Cage, Norm, Garrett, and none of them, they all went on to form these huge bands with guys. And I was like, hey, man, your little sister's over here wanting to play music with you. But it used to be that I would go to Sergio and Alan lived in Brooklyn together, and I'd go to their house and we would play music together. We even recorded, and then somehow it was just meant to be like kind of a demo tape, and that it was really good, but then we lost it. Actually, it was just a little cassette, we lost it. So we re-recorded, and that time I recorded with Sergio and John Crichton and this girl, Ida, who painted the Into Another album covers. She came and played violin, and
I love it.
It was just.
I really enjoy it. And you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
And I really recommend this to anybody out there. If you have Spotify or whatever, just put in Project Kate. It's really nice. And it's interesting because I listened to it out of context, right? I doing my homework, in part of my routine. I'm a very regimented person these days, and doing my nighttime exercise, or I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, oh, this has got to be one of a bunch of records that she did. I mean, thinking this, if it felt like, there's got to be in this sort of format, I'm thinking there's got to be a bunch of these, and it turns out this is the only one you did. Yeah. You got to do another Project Kate record.
I have some plans for that. I have music written, and 108 seems to be cranking up to record another record and starting to write music and stuff like that.
By the way, I want to shout out our good friend Igor Cavalera from Cavalera Conspiracy and Sepultura. 108 rules, respect. I love you, Igor. Your brother's coming on the show. You'll have to stop by and say hi. But it's always nice. To see Igor. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, I love Project. It was great. I really enjoyed it. So yeah. So
it was nice because I had a chance to express myself, and do my thing, which was very much me. And now I have to say I don't mind. I was a little self-conscious in 108 because I didn't have so much creative input in it, and I felt now I feel like you're just part of something that was so amazing. I don't need to have my ego doesn't need to be part of that at all. It's just part of that. Just part of that whole sort of phenomenon. That's all.
I mean, just looking at that footage from, you know what? Let's just skip right to this. Looking at the footage from this show, which was the 108. I don't want to call it a reunion because. I mean, it was never.
Well, we sort of don't consider it to be a reunion because we just Vic lives in Japan now, and our drummer is actually Madball's drummer, so they're out touring all the time, and so we play when we can. And before all of this happened with COVID, we were going to go to South America and we were going to go to Scandinavia, and we always want to go. We have the idea. I don't know if it'll happen of going to Japan with Race Trader and doing all that. And we'd like to, and that's good for Vic because he already lives in Japan. So we're like, well, why aren't we going to Japan? And I think it wasn't really a reunion tour, but it was the 25th anniversary of the release of Songs of Separation. So.
And you did, I think if I remember correctly, the Brooklyn Bazaar show sold out in the blink. And then you did another show at, what's the other place? St. Vitus, right?
Yeah. We played a show at St. Vitus, and then we played a show at Brooklyn Bazaar, and Yeah, and it was like an interesting thing because we decided that we were going to play Songs of Separation all the way through from the beginning, all the way, and some of the songs we'd never played live. So we had these like insane rehearsals, and the music is complicated. It's not like necessarily like other hardcore music where you're like, okay, yeah, it's like, you know, it's verse chorus. It's complicated. So we had to. We were rehearsing for like 7 hours a day for the week before.
Wow.
It was serious business. And luckily I had done this Project Kate show with this guy Popeye from Far Side and Jeff from Game Face. Like we did this acoustic show in Albany. Mm-hmm. So I'd been playing guitar a lot. Otherwise my fingers would have been seared to the bone, you know. It's like,
yeah.
So
what else? How about hold on, let me clear the deck here. Let's see what else we got here.
Yeah, 2 hours isn't very long, is it? Or if you like to talk, which both of us do.
Yeah, you know, we keep it moving. You know what? Here's one. Well, you know what? Do we want to veer off in this direction? Wait, let me get through the rest of the 108 stuff.
Okay.
Here's another shot from 108 playing Saint Vitus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now for those, I found this out to, this was an interesting revelation for me as well, is that Mike, who plays in Madball, plays in 108, and he is an incredible drummer, and apparently he's a very close friend of yours. Yeah,
so he's shy, so I don't want to say too much about him.
I want to get him on the show.
But he has one of the kind of brilliant minds of hardcore. He's super smart. He's an amazing like cook, and he's an amazing. I mean, for me playing with him, because we've had a lot of drummers, when you play with a really good drummer, you have to try very little. Like everything gels by that. The drummer gels the whole thing together.
Absolutely.
So he was in Unearth, and he was in this band, the Red Chord. I mean, the guy's like just an incredibly brilliant musician, and a lot of people just don't know who he is. But
excuse me, he's in Madball.
He's certainly in Madball. He plays in Madball all the time.
Right. Now Madball has some very intense personalities in it, so you know that's a tough band. You know, you have some alpha males in that band for sure. You know, I
love those. I mean, to me, I don't know, maybe because I'm not a male, I don't have to be alpha or omega. I can just show up, and I just always, in their presence, I always feel like a queen. They always just treat me like,
well, they're very respectful.
Yeah, they're like, they have like all the best parts of chivalry, and I feel like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so basically, like this one's from the first show that I did with them in 2016. I met Mike at that show. I hadn't been playing in 108. So this is from the first show. And because I can tell by the length of Mike's hair, because now he has long hair. So I met him like in the dressing room. He's quiet. He didn't say a word. He never spoke to me. For all the shows we played, he never said a word. He just was quiet. And I was like, this guy's cool. Like, he's super cool. And then we went to London to play a show for this with Integrity. And when I got to the hotel, this is like Mike's Shakti. He'd gotten like Indian food, and it was like waiting for me in my room. And I was like, this guy's my brother. I love him. You know, he's just always like, he's one of those quiet, you know, strong, silent type nurturing people. So he's a really good friend of the whole family. And Mike is just, I can't say enough good stuff. I absolutely love people named Mike, because I just keep talking about Mike Judge too. But I mean, they are kind of sick. So both of those guys, yeah, they're fantastic people. So, I mean, I think it's interesting because I had this whole like time period where I didn't really mix and mingle in hardcore. And I was just like, get me back, man. I am just not. Yeah. So that's from the London show.
Yeah. Underworld Camden.
I look like I just left a parent-teacher conference meeting. What do you think about the school lunch program?
You know, really, was that your kid ripping it up at the Tompkins Square Park show?
That was my So that was one of my 3 kids.
Ripping it up in the pit.
She was ripping it up in the pit. Everyone kept sending me videos. I was flying home from Oregon because my son was visiting a college out there. And her name is Budgie. And her real name is Subedra, but everyone calls her Budgie. Budgie is like her nickname, but most people just know her like that. And she was moshing like I was like, all the work I did for women in hardcore is manifesting in this one moment. And there was this beautiful, beautiful moment and I saw it in the video, where Freddie reaches down and he pulls her on stage, and it literally brought a tear to my eye. I was like, this is the thing. This hardcore is a family. And, it's the most popular post in Women of the Pit. She's like, it's interesting too, because at those 108 shows, and this is really important, and this shows the progress of hardcore from this like very male-oriented thing. Well, first of all, we played with that band Firewalker, which was these amazing women, and then young women, and then I was looking out into the audience, and in the audience and in the pit was my daughter, who was moshing with my friend Karuna's daughter, who's also actually named Kaylee. There's this guy, Brahma Mahorcha. His daughter was like in the pit. Like, it was all these girls in the pit that were like second generation Krishna girls. And I was just like, that's it. I can die now. This is my Sangha means gathering of your kind of your community. They were all there. And it was just like, I was just like, this is awesome. And also, and this girl that is now the singer of the band Reaching Out, she was there, and her dad.
Yeah,
her dad is like one of the reasons why I joined the temple.
Those are our people. Kevin Craig.
Yeah, he did this
Kevin
thing.
Craig and his daughter.
Kevin Craig was my guy. Like, he was
those
like
are our people. No, that's part of our family. We Reaching Out is on the A7 compilation that we're putting out. Like, Kevin Craig and KK. And Rupa and that whole band, by the way, Reaching Out, it's all hardcore kids.
No, I know, because Lenny, Lenny is like one of my best friends and used to live with us in New York, and was 108's roadie. He was our roadie for our European tour. So
and Beto's son plays in the band too.
Right, I know, it's crazy, and
it's awesome.
And it's so awesome. And for me, it's just like watching, and I feel like I don't want to take. I don't want to take credit for like changing the culture, but I'm sure it helped to have, did you ever read the book, The 100 Monkeys, Monkey Theory? Well, they did this study where there's monkeys living on an island, and they were all getting.
I know the concept. I know.
They're getting toxic, and then one monkey realized if he ate the volcanic ash. Well, hopefully I was that first monkey, because there was like Amy from Nausea. There were some punk women, but there wasn't really anyone for me to look up to.
Right.
So I'd like to hope that, I helped open that stuff up. And Kevin Craig used to do tattoos.
He's a tattoo artist.
In New York City, used to just live with us and do tattoo people like in the kitchen. It was like, he's like a really good old friend of ours. So his daughter's singing for that band, and she's like a fucking beast. I'm like, this band is so. I'm like so proud of that. I'm like so like for the cause with these girls, and like showing up, and just that they've broken down, all these barriers, and I'm just so sad.
For sure. I'm a big
women of the pit ladies are giving me hearts, and I'm just feeling. I want to say I was so supported today. Like, every dude was like reaching out to me. They're like, "Go get him, Tiger!" It was like really nice,
Yeah. Hey, I'm a big fan of girls or gals in hardcore, and always I feel like hardcore needs more girls, for sure. Yeah. And I think that this is my own personal thing, is that there was a bit of a dark time in hardcore where it was excessively violent and really male driven, and it is a bit of a scary place, and there was no girls around. And so
I went in the pit a few times, and I was like, I'm literally going to get like my arm broken. So I was like, I think I'll stand on the side of the stage. Like, I actually, and I think these girls are much braver than me. And they're like, my daughter is like, at that show, she was like, she must have done like 30 stage dives. Like, And
Yeah.
she's just
Young
like,
girls are tearing it up, man. It's awesome.
she's fucking tough as fuck, that kid. I really,
And you know,
you're right.
you got to fucking practice what you preach. And it's like, if we're going to have an all-inclusive, you know, you can't, hardcore's for everyone and this and that. Well, that's what it's got to be then. Absolutely.
But I think there's something else too, is that women have to step into their shoes a little bit too. Like, you know, it's interesting because we weren't really offered a seat at the table, but we just have to bring a fucking folding chair and roll it out and sit down. Or we have just, now we're kind of like making our own table. And guess what? Everybody wants to be at our table too. And it's just changed a lot. And, you know, it's fun and it's interesting to watch the transformation. And now it's like, it's not, you know, I mean, definitely Candace from Walls of Jericho, like she's a fucking badass.
Yeah,
and like,
she's a badass.
And that was actually one of that when Madball did that song with her, I was just like, I think I'm back into being a huge Madball fan again.
Oh, hell yeah.
It just changed. I was like, they gave space for this woman to own it, you know, and I just you know, I think that I feel like the whole scene is just now more like open and welcoming and conscious and supportive. And like, I don't feel like I felt so freaking supported and loved. And I mean, it used to be when 108 played, I don't think that they were, I don't think there was so much, there were no girls. I mean, we didn't play, I think there was one other girl that we played with, but in the like a 60-day tour in however many 5 bands a day. But it's so different now. So, you know, it's we've transformed it. It's changed. We've grown.
You know, being a first generation American hardcore person, when I first got into it, it was really all inclusive. There was, girls had fanzines and it was like in 1981 when I went to my first hardcore show. Yeah, sure, there was a lot of guys, but there was a lot of girls. And there was a very level playing field, you know. But and it was really cool. But eventually, they sort of got chased out by I mean, in my opinion, just the level of intensity and violence, you know.
I think that's part of it. And people always ask me like hundreds and hundreds of times, why aren't there more girls in hardcore? And I was just like, I'm not really sure, but. You know, I was a girl who grew up with a lot of brothers, so I was able to I had like
that's the best. My signature pit move is being knocked to the ground.
Well, I had to be pretty scrappy, you know. I had to be a pretty scrappy kid. So, but, you know, I love all these comments from here. Yeah, I love all these comments. Sisterhood is here to stay. And there are people that I want to give a little shout out to, like Shepard and Nancy Burrill and like all these. There were women who were like running everything behind the scenes and like taking all the pictures and, you know, kind of documenting everything and all of that. And it was so important, but they weren't necessarily in the band. So, you know, now they are. Now that's changed. And now they're in the pit and they're fucking killing it. And one of those is my daughter. And I was like, fuck yeah. And then I was like, Budgie, why is your mask down around your chin? And then I was like, she's like, I wore my mask. I'm like, I saw the video. It looked like she had like a goatee.
That was a crazy day. You know, it was like I was on stage.
It was such a crazy day. Yeah. From a distance, I was like, this thing is just this beautiful love fest. And all things aside, I always want to focus on like the positive. I keep the PMA. And I was like, you know, there was something about watching her mosh on stage. Like, it was just hilarious. She was like full bore. I was like, woo. Anyway.
Absolutely. Hey, let me do my my last little break here, do some sponsor shout outs, and we'll come back. We'll take some questions from around the world.
Okay, sure.
All right, here we go. We are continuing on our journey here on this Sunday shout out day. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by The Organic Grill, the Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, and Generation Records. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay on the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, They offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as T-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia, memorabilia, and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls are made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Also, our first sponsors, our beloved New York Hardcore Comics, opened back in 2013 when lifelong friends Debo the Pro and Lee Fairley combined their collections and obsessions for comic books, punk rock, toys, statues, Magic the Gathering, and all things horror. The store is located at 117 Main Street in lovely Dobbs Ferry, New York. If you want to support them during this pandemic, please contact them via email at newyorkhardcorecomics@gmail.com or any social media channel for an exclusive store package. I have to do a big shout out here on this Sunday. I want to shout out my latest patron, Timothy Richel? Is that how you pronounce it? Man, I just saw you just jumped on board. Wow. I really appreciate that, man. Timothy just came through big on Patreon. Let me put it back up there today. I'm really thank you. That's all I could say. Thank you. I thank you. The fruit of the day thanks you. The show thanks you. Thank you for your support, man. That was really awesome. Just goes to show I can multitask when I do this show. What else? Everybody okay? Yo, Hegs, what's up, man? Hope you're well. Lenny, yep. Hardcore New York Hardcore Comics throwing a show upstate in June. That's right. Everybody else is good. What else do I need to mention? Instagram. You know what? I was thinking about Instagram. I don't do this very often, but if you have one of these communication devices, please pick it up right now and join Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at Stone Films NYC. Get the latest on what's happening with the show. I even put up some other cool stuff once in a while. So join Instagram. Also, if you're watching the show in rerun, please, there is a subscribe button there. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Please subscribe to the show on YouTube. You get alerts when we do a new show, blah, 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 blah. Also, there is a merchandise line underneath there. There is the New York Hardcore Comics stuff. There is the Do Good Things, the Good Things Will Come to You line of stuff. There's a couple Antidote NYHC things. There's even the A7 Back to the New York Hardcore Roots compilation t-shirt, white t-shirt. So please support the show any way that you can. We would appreciate it. That said, let's do questions from everybody. I know a lot of people posted questions. Please post them again. Hunch back. Please repost your questions for Kate so we can do some questions. Here we go. Let me clear the deck a little bit. Blah, 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 blah. What's for dinner tonight? Things the clone Drew Stone thinks about during the show. What's for dinner tonight? What's for dinner tonight, Kate?
That is a question that I don't know the answer to yet. I haven't gotten that far.
Okay. Let's take okay. Here's a question. What are your favorite books that inspired you on your spiritual quest? Who are the musicians who inspired your kirtans?
So one of my favorite books is called The Journey Home by Radhanath Swami, but that's something that I read much later, but it tells this pilgrim's journey of a person who I think is just like a really cool person and an amazing teacher. But early on, I would say that one of my inspirational books is called The Nectar of Devotion. And The Nectar of Devotion just is it just tells all the different ways that bhakti manifests. And I mean, we don't have a super long time. I could talk about that for 5 hours, and you can join my Bhagavad Gita class if you ever want to. It's on Zoom next Sunday, and then you can ask me and I'll talk for hours because it's a 2-hour class. And the musicians who inspired my kirtans, Vijay Krishna, who's in this band called the Kirtaniyas. I love this guy Gauravani, but I also love the Qawwali band Fanafi Allah. It's like a punk rock name. It means annihilation into Allah. It's this really, really cool. You should check out Fanafi Allah. And then, of course, Krishna Das. There's Krishna Das. Krishna Das is the man. He's like this.
Let's talk a little bit about Krishna Das. You play drum with Krishna Das, and for the uninitiated, sort of give us an abbreviated kind of who is Krishna Das?
So Krishna Das he's actually called Rockstar of American Kirtan, and he was in Blue Oyster Cult. He was in Blue Oyster Cult.
That's awesome.
And he was one of the first guys that went to India with Ram Das, who people kind of know. Ram Das wrote Be Here Now. And Krishna Das is the most brilliant teacher of bhakti I've practically ever met. And he's just this really kind, really good, but really fucking cool dude. Like, we did a kirtan in LA for John Joseph's project that he was doing with, which is like a project where they had people coming out of prison after 25 years. And he asked Krishna Das, can you come? And Krishna Das said to play for these people that were like just out of jail after being, in jail for 25 years. Wow. And he said, yes. And he paid for it himself. And then he rolls in and I'm there and I'm going to play these little cartels and I'm going to sing backups. And who's going to play the drum that day? Freaking John Densmore from the Doors.
Wow.
So I was like, that guy looks familiar. So it's like, he's like down with everybody. And he's, he plays he had Sting record with him. Rick Rubin recorded him. And he's just this chanter. He just holds space. I mean, I don't know what to say, but he plays 90%, 99% of the time he plays with this guy, Arjun, who everyone should check out. His name is Arjun Brueggemann, and he's just like this brilliant tabla player, but he's also a huge, huge fan of Iron Maiden. So Iron Maiden was playing in LA. He's actually now played with the guys from Iron Maiden. He's played tabla with them. But so Krishna Das came up to me. We had been at a retreat in the Bahamas. And one time anyway, that's another story. And he came up to me. He's like, can you drum for me? And of course, like I was like, yes. Because I mean, he's like the most famous kind of worldwide.
Whether I can or not, yes, I will friggin' learn. Right? I
was like, well, I played, but I'm not like a virtuoso. And he plays with all these people that are like these incredible people. I had played with him, I'm friends with his daughter, and his son-in-law is actually his son-in-law was actually in Dog Eat Dog. He plays saxophone. So
really?
He's so cool. Yeah, he's this whole cool music guy, and Krishna Das loved the Clash. He loves every type of music.
Would that be Scott? I toured with
this guy's name is Kevin, but I'm sure they had different people. But he does sound for Krishna Das, and when I walked in, I'm like, that's a fucking hardcore kid doing sound. So Krishna Das invited me to play with him, and he said, it's this little women's retreat. So I go there, and there's like no rehearsal. Sit down on stage. There's like 500 people there. I had listened to him a lot, and we just went for it, and I just did it.
You're in this photo playing with him.
I'm playing with him there, at Kripalu at this women's retreat with this very famous female lama named Lama Tsultrim.
Wow.
With one of the great female Buddhist teachers. So I was like, I'm in, and I was just like, holy shit, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm fucking gonna do it because how can you turn that down?
That's awesome.
And I've played with him a bunch of times, not a bunch, but 5 or 6 times since then. So
here we go. Being a mother and a wife, do you still think that material life is suffering in its essence? Now, answer that in 3 minutes.
So I think that the material world is built to be frustrating. And I think that being a mother and a wife sometimes is the greatest teacher of learning to navigate the frustration and the difficulty of the material world with grace. It's a place where you learn how to manage that. But if you read further in the Bhagavad Gita, and if you follow the Four Noble Truths and you get to the Eightfold Path, you find out that you can actually transverse the suffering, but it's through practice. And if you're taking motherhood and being married, I have a really freaking fantastic husband who's just really supportive of everything that I do, and is just, we get along really well, so it's pretty easy. But there will be the time when one of us dies, right? So you have to face those things. So I think in the absence of some type of spiritual practice, then motherhood and being a wife could just be very much suffering. But hopefully it's through these practices that we do, that I do every day, that I can actually transcend suffering. So hopefully that's a good answer in 3 minutes. I mean, I could talk about it indefinitely. And there's a line in the Bhagavad Gita later in the 6th chapter. And so in the first, it says sarvam dukkam, everything is suffering. And later it says vasudeva sarvam, everything is divine, everything is divinity. So if we change our mentality, and that's all that spiritual life is, you're doing the same thing. You're waking up, you're eating food, you're drinking water, you're having babies, you're mowing the lawn, you're gardening, but it's your mentality that's changed. That's it.
My dad has a line. It's all your perspective.
It's all your perspective and your intention.
Right. He always said you need to change your perspective.
Exactly. So that's.
Yep. Here's a question from our resident historian, Chucky Brown. Can you speak on the Project Kate song, Mother Kaluni? Am I pronouncing that right? Kalini. Yeah. Is the song named after the woman that married Stephen her? I believe she named her daughter Kaluni as well.
Yeah, so the song Mother Kalini was...
Kalini, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and am I supposed to stop talking soon? Because it's a little bit after time, that I'll just keep going until you stop me.
No, we kind of go and we go.
You should see me and Hoya in a room. Like the talking could go on. Like
no, we go until I get really hungry, and then I end the show.
Not hungry yet. Yeah. So Project Kate. Yeah, I recorded a song called Mother Kalini, and the song was, I was hanging out with Garrett from Texas Is the Reason, and he was describing a girl that worked at Angelica's, and he said, "I don't know where she's such an angel. I don't know where she hides her wings." Which is such a Garrett thing to say. Mm. And in that moment, the vision of this woman who was named Mother Kalini, we called her Mother as a title of respect. So she was a Sedvi, she was a widow, she was a renunciate in our tradition, and probably one of the women that was the most respected and very early Prabhupada disciple, just a brilliant devotee, like probably one of the most brilliant, famous devotees that was female. And she, so in that moment when he said that about this girl, I thought, oh my God, the real angel is Mother Kalini. And so I wrote a song about walking with Garrett to work, and then him describing that, and then me writing about how actually it was this woman who gave me a portal into the mysteries of our tradition. And so, and then later she did marry us. She was the woman that married us. She's a priest. And then we named our daughter after her. She was really my husband's guru. He has another formal guru, but as in terms of his guru, it was Mother Kalini. So that's where the song came from.
Got it. So. Fantastic. This is I always like when our people ask the questions before I even have to pick up my notes. Why do you think Krishna consciousness resonated with so many hardcore kids?
I think that people in the hardcore scene had already dropped out of, they already knew full-on normal material life was total bullshit. That's like why people get into hardcore. They're the misfits. They're the alternative kids. They're the kids that are like, they're the ones that are smarter. They can look at like the normal American life and go, this isn't going to satisfy me. There's no way this is going to make me happy. And so Krishna consciousness answers the next question, which is like, now that you've figured out that nothing is going to make you happy, you have to figure out what is going to make you happy. Mm-hmm. And so Krishna consciousness provides a window in and a methodology by which the soul can find its true nature. And the nature of the soul is called Satchidananda. It means it's existing, it's full of knowledge, and it's full of bliss. And the idea is we're covered over. And the covered over is the dukkam. When we remove the dukkam, the suffering and the cloudiness and the veils, then we can actually see truth. And that's why Krishna consciousness resonates with people. And that's why actually a lot of the prominent teachers in the yoga world and in the Buddhist meditation world all come from hardcore. There's a ton of them.
Let me ask you, who is Ravindes Faruqa?
Ravindes Faruq?
Yeah.
Ravindes Faruq he's a guru in ISKCON, but he's also married. He's a normal guy. And he was the head of the Philadelphia temple. And he was the one that recognized in us that we weren't just full of shit and that we actually had something. And all the other temple devotees were like, they need to give up this crazy hardcore. He's like, no, they don't. They have something. So he ran interference for us and he allowed us to be ourselves. And now he is my neighbor in Stuyvesant Falls because he retired from the temple. And I was like, why don't you come live with us? Well, we have like a couple of houses up there for devotee people to live in. So he also was this very radical, like he's very like leftist in that world because there's like there's always a range of people that in any religion, but he was a teacher that allowed us to be who we are and recognized in our world that we had what we were doing had value more than we did even.
So in a certain way, he paved the way for the Krishna core movement. He
totally did.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And he's still really cool. Like if you hang out with him, you're like, this fucking dude is so cool.
That's interesting. Is it true that hold on? Is it true that let me clear the deck here? Hold on. Is it true that you hold a black belt in yoga?
Yes. Let's answer that quickly.
Yeah, tell us about it's my note, yoga. She has a black belt in yoga. Yeah. Tell us about yoga in your world.
So I started teaching yoga asana many years after I was like a devotee, which is usually the opposite. And what was your question? Tell you about yoga in general?
Well, no, not yoga in general, but just about you teach yoga, or and your sort of yoga your yoga practice. Excuse me.
Oh, I teach yoga, and I started a yoga school which is called Bhakti Marg, which means the path of devotion. And I train teachers how to be yoga teachers. And
is that the Alps?
That is the Himalayas, which is how you say the Himalayas if you're pronouncing it properly.
Sure looks pretty.
Himalayas, that's called the Kulu Valley, and there's everyone should go there. It's one of the most beautiful and mystical places in the whole universe, and everyone should go to Himalayas and to India with me. I take people to India if you ever want to go to India. And I have this like fantasy that I'm going to just take a bunch of hardcore kids to India with me. So sometime you can go, and we can go up there, and that place has natural hot springs and snow peaks. Oh, this is
that the Ganges?
So I'm standing. There's 4 sources of the Ganges, and this is the confluence of the Alakananda and the Bhagirathi, and it's where Lord Ram actually bathed in the waters right behind me. You can see there's chains. You hold. After this picture was taken, you hold on to the chains and you dunk into the Ganges. But it's where the 2 of the 4 sources of the Ganges can join. And if you ever want to, one of them is like turquoise and one is muddy, and they turn into this beautiful confluence. And then there's 2 other places, and then they go down to the Bay of Bengal, and that's where Lord Ram bathed after he killed the demon Ravana, right in that spot. So I bathed there also.
I'm going through one more. I always like I have to post all the pictures, or it's.
Did I send you that one? I don't remember that, but you found it. I don't know what's coming up now.
This one looks like this could be New York State.
That was actually I was just posting pictures that time because we were doing this fundraiser, and we were doing a fundraiser for these lanterns that were solar, that were like going to different places where people didn't have power, electricity, and like third world places where that hadn't come yet. So we had to do this like yoga challenge where we were like posting pictures every day of different yoga poses. So that's just me doing Natarajasana. I didn't know if that was going to, that's a little embarrassing.
Okay.
And that was our old living room of one place we rented in Albany.
Let me see. Anybody else? Any other questions? We're heading down the home stretch. Let's bring on Steven. Hey, Steven, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey,
how are you?
How are you?
You got anything for Kate?
I just want to say that I really what I'm loving about your being here is what I love about hardcore is the like spiritual, tribal feeling I get from the community, and you're just painting these kind of beautiful pictures of the whole thing, and it just kind of, like reminding me exactly like it's a different view of exactly kind of how I feel about it all. And you just, like I feel like you really capture like what it means, not just on a musical level, but just like the friendships and the creating the music and playing. It just
well, I think there's a connection too, and I didn't answer this in the other question, but or someone asked me a question about 108. But what's interesting about hardcore is that there's this thing that all of the people that are doing meditation practice are trying to, they're trying to drop into a state of total presence in the moment, and their mind is meant to be clear. And there's something in the Yoga Sutras, it says, yoga is the stilling of the changing states of the mind. Yoga is chittavritti nirodha. And it's exactly what happens in that moment when hardcore bands play. It's just a different form of meditation. It's like, if you're like in the pit or you're like playing, nothing else exists. You're completely, and this whole concept of being here now, which is fundamental to the moksha traditions, is that being totally present. And I feel like hardcore does that for people. And I don't know what else. Like for me, it's only been those two things. It's been hardcore music and like meditating with these great Buddhist teachers and Krishna teachers also. And I don't know what else does that. And there's this thing, which is what's called one of the jewels in Buddhism. They call it one of the jewels. I think one of the three jewels, and that's called your sangha. Sangha means a gathering of people to seek the truth. So when you go to a hardcore show and like if you all arrive there, it's almost like a pilgrimage. And then when you arrive and you're together, it's like being with your sangha. And so there's nothing for me that's more real and more organic and authentic in terms of creating that same exact mind space and also heart space that hardcore does, just like in any temple that you would go to. It's there. It's the same.
Absolutely. And I showed you the trailer for my new film, and I shot my new film in the Middle East. It's heading down the home stretch now, and there's a point in the film where I am interacting with a musician, Ravid, from a group called Yemen Blues, and we're talking about exactly that. And the way he explains it as it's the trance, is how he explains it. And because I say to him, I can relate. I say, a lot of times when I'm singing in the band and things are absolutely hectic around me, kids are jumping off the stage and, it's super loud and it's total chaos. There comes a moment where I'm totally serene and totally calm, and I could see I'm really conscious of what's going on around me. like, oh wow, look who's, in the back corner of the room over there, and oh hi, there's so and so, how you doing? And I wonder if the bass player's got a bottle of water, and and part of the connection that I have in this new film I'm doing is how music is the universal language. And one thing that I connect with him is the trance. It's the trance.
Yeah. There's a word for it that we use. We have a word. It's called bhav. Bhav means when you're in a state of awakened spiritual consciousness. And I think that it's achievable. And I felt the same playing in 108 as I felt drumming for Krishna Das, where you're dialed in, you're totally centered. There's nothing else exists outside the room. You're totally in the moment and your mind is completely clear. And for me, I think that's the other reason why so many people from the hardcore world, like Krishna consciousness, or, like my friend Erica, who's John Joseph's partner, she's like a very evolved Buddhist practitioner. She's taken refuge vows. She's like the real deal. There's a lot of other Buddhist meditation teachers. And then there's you start getting into those different traditions. And the Sufis have, if you ever can, go to a zikr where the
zikr.
Yeah, it's there's a Sufi kirtan, and they have it's fucking punk rock. They have people that just, and you're and the best part about it, and we should start this at hardcore, is people get up from the audience and they dance around, and they get on stage and they dance around just like we do, but they're whirling, and then they throw money at the band. I was like, we need to install that. So there's just these amazing connections. It's definitely.
And even to throw it in there, I remember seeing this at Grateful Dead concerts, is that people were dancing and whirling, and they were it was like a trance, and people would just listen. Music is universal, and it's the tie that binds us together. And it doesn't matter whether it's hardcore or what have you. This is the commonality that we have, and this is the language that we have.
Sound vibration is the subtlest. It's the subtlest type of material energy, and it's the barrier. It's the subtle veil between the material world and the spiritual world, according to the Vedas. So when you think about that, you're stepping to the threshold. When you're in a musical experience, you're standing at the threshold of the sacred, and it's there for us in hardcore, and it's there. You're doing your film, which I can't wait to see, and you can just experience it. So it's amazing. I've thought a lot about it. So
this is exactly what my new film is about. This is we're talking about it right here. This is the ethos of my new film. Yeah.
Cool. I'm psyched. I can't wait. I think it needs to be made. So
it's heading down the whole stretch.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because Tompkins Square Park, standing on stage at Tompkins, a month ago already, that was the feeling, the energy. And I think, I don't know who said it, but someone even said it was this is our church, and that incredible feeling of just especially after, a year and a half away from it, of all of our friends and everyone there just going crazy. And it was it was so life affirming.
Yeah.
And it's everything that we love. And it was there it was. And I think that it's so important that people don't realize how that, I mean, what for a year that we didn't have live music, you still have the music and you could write and record and play with your friends, but that social aspect that was missing.
The Sangha. You need the Sangha. You got to have the Sangha.
I think that
culture and community, baby.
It's literally so deprived people, and it was incredible. And just, I'm so happy that, everyone's able to gather again, and the bands are playing, and it's just
we'll never take it for granted again. We will never take it for granted, and we just really understand the importance and significance of the human experience and the family and the gathering and all of that. And so I just, I think it'll be it's starting to happen a little bit more now.
For sure.
Which one was your daughter, by the way, in the front? Because I'm looking through my pictures from all the kids in the pit, and I wanted to see if I got her in the pictures.
She's got a little blonde head, a grown out shaved head, And
Like
she's
spiky, kind of.
a little bit spiky. She's like very blonde. She's very tall and very skinny.
Was she right in the front?
She was right in the front,
Right in the
and
front.
she had her little friend with her, and her friend's Asian. They were like a little team.
Yeah, for sure.
I think she was wearing like a kilt, and I can't remember, but she's. If you need a reference, you can go to the Women of the Pit.
Yeah.
She's like, I sent them the little video of her moshing on stage to Murphy's Law.
Yep.
But yeah, and it's nice because they're Women of the Pit's kind of holding the space of like not promoting, but just like sharing the female experience in hardcore. It was great. So it was really like, I was pretty excited that they shared the video of Budgie because I was like, yay. My oldest daughter's really introverted. She would never do that. She'd rather just never do that. But Budgie is full on. So Budgie loves L7, and she's all about, she loves hardcore music too. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Steven, any
Yes.
shout outs on the way out?
You know what? I'm going to shout out Rob Granger, guitar player from Serial Poets. He helped me out a lot this week with some editing and something special we're working on. And, just want to shout out everyone, the Women of the Pit, and Paulie Pork Chops. All those guys are watching every week, and just always a pleasure, man. This is just great. And I really, really enjoyed hearing your stories today. So
yeah, it was really fun. If anybody has any more questions, they can always contact me. I mean, I'm really reachable by Instagram, and I really respond to everybody because I enjoy that. So if you want to, friend me on Instagram and send me a message, I'll always respond.
Steven, we'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
My guys,
You guys are cool.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate. One last photo, the only photo I've yet to post.
Oh God.
Who are these people?
Oh my God. So the woman who's on my left but is on the right of the photo, her name is Kari, and she's my best friend, and she helps me ship. She's like a deadhead, so it's like a joke. She has a tattoo of Jerry Garcia, and I'm always like, oh my God, and my best friend is a deadhead. So what we call her Kari Bowl, because it rhymes with Hari Bowl.
That's great.
And she's actually a devotee. She's initiated in the Pushti Marg, and then and she's a Jivamukti yoga teacher, and she like travels with me, and she's my best friend. And then the guy on the other side is this guy John Smirtik, who's also a yoga teacher, and somehow we were at a yoga festival together. So they're my yoga people, but they're both like. John's really into the band Fish, and he's like, you would love Fish, and I'm like, fucking no way, I would not love Fish, and I can't even tell you why I wouldn't love Fish, but I'm gonna love your yoga.
Man, I saw Fish, boy, they didn't do it for me. It's
just funny because the yoga world is filled with like deadheads, and I guess in some ways those people those tribes of people have a lot in common with hardcore kids. It's just a very different type of way worse music. That's right. You like the Dead, so
yeah. I mean, I love the Dead. I saw the Dead many times before as a very
addicted to the Dead. It's funny too because I know from yoga I know the woman who is the Dead's secretary. She's
is that Sue Stevens?
No, her name is Roni Stanley, and she was married to Owsley Stanley, and she's one of the LSD. Original LSD guru.
Of course.
I also know Zach Leary, who's Timothy Leary's. He's like a yoga guy, and it's a different world. But yeah.
Let's do one or two more questions.
Okay. And then we're gonna make dinner.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yep. I don't understand this one. Kate, do you like Goa trance?
So that must be something to do with Goa, the city in India, and I don't know what it is. So
that came up a bunch of times.
Yeah. I've never been to Goa.
When is 108 coming back?
108 is coming back as soon as we can. And we sort of made a decision that, because Madball is a working band, we want to make sure they have lots of time to to play as much as they can. And also when the pandemic ends, all the bands are going to want to play, and the bands that really rely on that to support their families, we want to give space to that. And we don't really rely on that, so we want to give space to that. But I think 2022. So that's our plan.
That sounds great, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right. Hey, you know what? Let's get something to eat.
Let's go get something to eat, because these are just, So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And anybody you want to shout out on the way out?
Well, I think it's important. I didn't say BJ Pappas. She's like a really important person in hardcore, and I want to just give her a shout out, because I feel like she was one of the women that I thought, oh, she's like really doing the thing. And just like shout out to Kay Judge Official. That's Mike's wife. She's like so cool and awesome. And I think that's it.
Okay, well,
thank you guys for listening to all my crazy yoga philosophy. I don't know if that was the intention of people trying to hear about hardcore, but it's there.
Who wants to hear about hardcore? Nobody. Listen.
We already know about hardcore. Well, it's connected and related.
People come on to my people. People are part of the show because they're just up for the adventure. That's truly what my show is about. You know. Yeah. Lori says, thank you so much, Kate. This was such a great show.
And definitely to the women who do Women of the Pit, because they've been really supportive and really cool and always like kind of chiming in. And I never really had that before. So it's really exciting.
Absolutely.
Really great. And thank you to everybody for listening. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Kate. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Haribo.
Haribo. Well, there you go. Wow. What a great show. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, The Texas Silver Rush, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, and Generation Records. Also want to shout out our friends at Pitchfork and Fryette Amplification and Your Core Hardcore fan page. Everybody else, good show. Thanks, everybody. Gome, everybody. Christoph, you know what? I got it. Want to shout out Timothy Rochelle, like Michael. Reichel? Do I got that right? Timothy Reichel, like Michael? Shouting out Timothy Reichel, my latest patron. Scott Helland. Got to shout out Scott Helland, formerly of Deep Wound and the Outpatients and Frenchie the Punk. He just committed to doing the show. We're getting the flyer together. We are looking forward to having you on the show, Scott. There you go. Chucky Brown, I love you, bro. Thank you so much for being such a vibrant contributor to the show. Rap Bones, what's up? Yeah, Scott Helland's in the house. Yeah, we got him coming on the show. Rap Bones, what's up? Martyred Artist, Drew Stone, keeping it alive. The Captain loves you. What's up, Bob? I hope you're well. Lori Dawn. Thanks, Lori. Great show today. You know what show I did? You know what picture I didn't get to post? Wait, here's one that I didn't get to post. It didn't come up, but it was standing by in case we got into the shelter thing. Here I am directing the shelter video with my brother. I did Back in the Van again back in the day. So there's a little Stone Brothers production photo. Here's another one. Another one. Shelter, back in the van again. Back in the van again. There you go. Here's another one. There's Purcell in the back of the van. So there you go. Ted, what do you mean you missed it, bro? We've been doing it for an hour and a half, bro. Where you been? Yeah, watch it. It was a good one. Mike Judge, thank you, man. Thank you for your support, Mike. It means a lot. It really, really does. Kate 08 is the real deal. Thank you, Mike. I know you guys are very close, and it means a lot to me knowing that, you're out there, Mike, and Igor's out there. It really inspires me, man, as an artist. So thank you. DJ Kaz. Got to shout out DJ Kaz, who had a stroke. We love you, Kaz, and we hope we're praying for you, man. Show was great. Loved hearing more on the Krishna hardcore connection. Always felt like it made perfect sense. Absolutely. On a roll with the great shows. We're on a Kaiser roll. Who's next, by the way? Oh, John Sox from the FUs is next. A week from today. We've been doing a lot of shows lately. I'm glad I got a week to sort of get my mojo working again. John Sox is coming up a week from today. So everybody, we will see you a week from today. Everybody else, thank you. It was a great show. Great show to everybody. Show was great. Yeah. So there you go, everyone. Thanks so much. Thank you for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. It was great today. Shout out Sunday. I want to shout you out. I want to shout everybody that watched the show today. Thank you so much. And we will see you a week from today with John Sox. Until then, friends, family, loved ones, do good things, and good things will come to you.